Let's be honest. Have you ever been in a room where a brilliant, game-changing strategy was created, only to watch it end up as a forgotten file on a server? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. Today, we are diving deep into one of the biggest headaches in business, closing that gap between a great plan and actually making it happen. We're going to talk about how to earn what's called the execution premium.
So what's going on here? Is the problem that most strategies are just bad? Well, not really. The real failure point, more often than not, is in the handoff. It's that moment when the beautiful plan is supposed to become reality. It's not a failure of ideas, it's a failure of implementation.
And there's a name for this. Experts call it the execution gap. It's that huge, frustrating space between what your company could achieve and what it actually achieves. Look, a visionary strategy is fantastic. You absolutely need one, but it's not enough. Without a system to bring that vision to life, it's really just a wish list.
Okay, now look at this data because it's pretty staggering. A survey found that for companies without a formal process for executing their strategy, a whopping 73% reported average or below average performance. But then you look at the companies that do have a formal process. That number plummets to just 27%. The difference is the system. It's as simple as that.
So, for the next few minutes, here's our game plan. We're going to look at the tools that help you bridge that execution gap, things like the balanced scorecard and strategy maps. Then, we'll walk through the 6-stage system that really ties it all together. And finally, we'll look at the incredible results it can deliver.
All right, let's jump in with our first major tool, the balanced scorecard. Now, a lot of people think this is just about measurement, but it's so much more. Think of it less like a report card and more like a new compass for your entire business.
The key phrase to really grab onto here is strategic management system. It's not just a dashboard. It's more like the navigation system on a ship. It's constantly checking the winds, the currents, and your position, allowing the captain to make smart adjustments to stay on course. It doesn't just tell you where you are. It actively helps you steer toward your final destination.
And this is how it works its magic. The scorecard forces you to look at your business from 4 balanced perspectives. Of course, you've got the traditional financial view, but it's balanced by the customer perspective, the internal processes you have to absolutely nail. And this is the secret sauce, the learning and growth perspective. That's about your people, your tech, your culture. It gives you a complete, holistic picture of your company's health.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is a quote from Brian Baker, an executive VP at Mobile. His division literally went from the very bottom of its industry to #1 in just 2 years after putting this system in place. And he says the scorecard gets the lion's share of the credit for creating a whole new performance mindset.
So the scorecard gives you the what? The metrics. But the strategy map, well, the strategy map tells the story. It's the visual that shows everybody how all the pieces fit together.
A strategy map is pretty much what it sounds like. A visual blueprint of how your company creates value. It's this amazing one-page diagram that takes all those abstract goals from a 50-page strategy document and makes them real. It shows the cause and effect links. It's just an unbelievably powerful communication tool.
And the logic is just so clean. It flows from the bottom up. See, you start by investing in learning and growth. That's your foundation, your people, your culture. That investment lets you get better at your key internal processes. When you nail those processes, you can deliver something special to your customers. And when you make your customers happy, well, that's what drives the financial results everyone wants to see. It connects every single action to the final outcome.
Okay, so we've got the scorecard, we've got the map, but we need an engine to actually make it all run. That's where this 6-stage management system comes in. This is the nuts and bolts, the practical process that makes strategy execution a real core competency.
The most important thing to see here is that these 6 stages form a closed loop. It's not a straight line. You develop and plan the strategy, you align the organization, you plan operations, but then, critically, you monitor and learn, and then you test and adapt. It's a continuous cycle of execution, learning, and getting better.
Let's just zoom in for a second on stage 3, align the organization. Honestly, this is where the real magic happens. Alignment means that every single person in the company, from the CEO to the frontline employee, understands the strategy. And even more importantly, they understand how their job, the stuff they do every day, directly contributes to that bigger picture.
So check this out. At Mobile, they actually sat down and explained the new strategy to their truck drivers. Now, a driver's job seems simple, right? deliver fuel safely and on time. But now they could see the connection. Driving safely wasn't just some rule, it was a strategic action that lowered costs. Arriving on time wasn't just about a schedule, it was about ensuring a gas station never ran dry, which helped create a perfect buying experience. All of a sudden, their daily job had a real, tangible, strategic purpose. How cool is that?
So what happens when you put it all together? You get the map, the scorecard, the system, and a totally aligned team. Well, you earn the execution premium. Let's look at the proof, because it's pretty wild.
Let's go back to mobile. Remember, they were dead last in their industry for years. They put this system into practice, and within just 2 years, their profits were 56% above the industry average. They went from last to first and stayed there. That's not just an improvement, that's a total transformation.
And this wasn't some fluke in the oil industry. Marriott Vacation Club International used this exact same framework. The result? Their operating profit grew by 20% a year for 4 straight years. That is massive, sustained growth.
And here's the best part. That profit wasn't just from pinching pennies. It came directly from the customer. The number of customers who rated Marriott as easy to do business with shot up by 70%. It's a perfect example of how a well-executed internal strategy creates a fantastic external customer experience.
So what's a practical way you can start doing this? A huge discipline is separating your meetings. You need 2 kinds. An operational review is for putting out today's fires, tactical problems, budget issues. But a strategy review meeting is totally different. That's where you look at the big picture, you review the scorecard, and you focus on building a better future. When you try to mix the two, the urgent stuff always pushes out the important stuff. And all of this really leaves us with one final big question to think about. In your organization, is your strategy just a document that gets pulled out once a year for a review, or is it a living, breathing process that people actually use to make decisions every single day at every level? Because that right there, that's the difference between a strategy that just exists on paper and one that truly powerfully executes.